Hello there and welcome. I'm Juliana Michaels and thanks so much for joining me. In this video, I'm sharing a fun new way to create custom patterns and designs using the brand new award-winning Sizzix Stamp and Spin tool. As soon as I saw this tool and the possibilities it holds, I couldn't wait to take it for a spin myself. Along with an introduction to this tool, I'm also going to share 4 different techniques and ways of using it to create your own custom patterns and designs. If you're interested in this tool or any of the supplies I'm using in this video, you can find links to them in the description box below. Underneath the title of this video, click on the word More to expand the text box and see the links. When you shop through those links, you're supporting me and I really appreciate that so very much. I want to talk to you about the new stamp and spin tool from Sizzix. What you see here though in front of you is the Sizzix stamp and stencil tool. And Sizzix has created a new accessory for the stamp and stencil tool that is called the stamp and spin tool. To add that accessory and use it, all you have to do is remove the lid from the stamp and stencil tool, which it just simply slides right out of the opening there. And then this is the stamp and spin tool, and you just slide it down into the openings and you are ready to go. It also comes with a mask, which I'll explain that later on, but that is used to kind of help protect your sticky grid mat. And you'll want to use a sticky grid mat in your tool so that it will help hold your paper in place while you're doing the stamping. This tool's main purpose is to create circular patterns such as wreaths onto your paper and cardstock, but it can be used for some other things. So I'm going to be taking you through 4 different techniques from simple to more involved. And by involved, I mean it is just more colors, more steps. But all of these techniques and ways of using this tool, anyone can do if you have the tool and some stamps and some ink and some paper. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my grid paper in place. And when you're doing that, you're just going to peel off. There's like a liner on both sides of the paper that you just have to peel off. And then you just line that up with the rectangular shape that's inside the tool. You can get that stuck down. And then there's another liner on the top of that you're going to peel off. And then you just want to keep these liners so that you can cover this back up in between usage so that it doesn't get dust or pet hair or anything like that on it. So with this stamp and spin accessory, you've got the ability to rotate this platform part to create your design. So every 45 degrees, it rotates and then there'd be like kind of clicks into place. So you just kind of know where to stop and how many times you click and rotate this kind of helps spread out the design. A lot of this will make more sense as you see me using it. There are also some markings on here that help you with the kind of like the size of the wreath that you want to create so that you're keeping it on the paper size that you're working with. Obviously the wreath shapes will be better on like a square or circle piece of paper. So if you've pre-cut your paper, you're going to need to scoot it down about 1/8 of an inch so that it will line up with the center of the stamp and spin tool. However, if you're using a larger piece of paper than you need, it doesn't really matter how you position it because you can always cut it down later. And now I'm going to show you how to center your paper on the tool if you're going to use pre-cut paper. For the wreath patterns, I'm going to be working with paper that I've already cut into squares. I've got one that's 6 by 6 inches and one that's 5 by 5 inches. But you can work with any size paper in the Stamp and Spin tool. You could do 12 by 12 paper in here. It would just hang off a little bit on the sides, but it would work. So if you wanted to do like scrapbook pages and make wreaths on those, that would work. Probably the largest wreath that you can make, just because of the size of the actual spin portion here, is probably around 8 1/4 inches, like to the edge of the design. But definitely you've got lots of possibilities for the size of the wreaths that you can create. And then you can get all the way down to pretty small here to around, you know, 3 inches or smaller, depending on what size stamps that you were using even. So definitely gets small enough to do for cards and all the way up to scrapbook pages or home decor type stuff even. Now when it comes to lining up the papers in the tool, the tool itself has a centering line right here that will help you line up the stamps for creating the patterns. And as you can see here, it doesn't exactly line up with the grid paper. So you're going to want to slide your paper down just a tiny little bit to about 1/8 of an inch to get it centered on the actual spin portion of the tool. And you can find the center and then just slide it down that, you know, 1/8 of an inch or so there. And then position it onto the sticky grid. And then from there, you'll have the center lined up with the center here on the tool. Or if you want to just find the center of your paper, you can take a ruler and line that up on your paper. Find the center of your paper and just make a little mark with a pencil if you like. Do that on either side. And then line that back up in here. And then you can kind of see that this dotted line on the tool then lines up with the center line that you marked on your paper. And now that I've introduced you to the Stamp and Spin tool, let's get into the making. For this first design I want to show you, I'm just going to create a simple wreath design that you can make using just one stamp. And here I've got a piece of plain white cardstock cut to 5 by 5 inches, and I'm going to place it into the Stamp and Spin tool and center it on the grid. And then because it's pre-cut, remember you want to slide it down 1/8 of an inch so that it's lined up with the center of the tool. So as you can see here, the center line of the tool is now lined up with the center of the paper. For this, I'm going to be working with the Garden Botanicals stamp set. And so again, I'm just selecting several of the images to create my design with. Just picked some of the kind of open greenery type images. And when you're working with creating the wreath, I like to kind of place my paper in there and then figure out placement wise which of these lines to kind of use as my wreath, so that it kind of helps me figure out spacing and making sure it's going to stay in the center of the paper that I'm working on. All right, so for this one, I've got several green inks picked out here. Again, I'm working with the archival inks, and I've got peat moss, fern green, and olive. And I'm going to stamp this kind of branch image first. And like I said, I just want to make sure it's going to stay on my paper. So I'm going to kind of line it up there and pick it up with the tool. And I'm just going to pick one of these colors to stamp with. and stamp the image. And then you're just going to turn it one click, apply the ink again, and then stamp again. Now, as you see, with this one, it's going to create like an overlapped design. If you don't want it overlapped, you can click it twice, and then that's going to repeat that image and separate it apart from the first one. So it's really kind of a preference of how you want these images to stamp with each other. So I'm just gonna show you what it looks like just to go around with this one image and create a wreath with just that one design, and how beautiful it can be. When I'm turning the platform, I prefer to turn it towards me. I recommend selecting, either turning towards you or away from you and kind of sticking with that. It'll just kind of help you keep from getting confused as you're creating your pattern. So you don't remember, oh, which way did I turn it? Did I go this way? Did I go that way? And then you have to go back the other way to stamp the image. So if you kind of just get in that habit of turning it towards you, which like you see there, I forgot to do. But I knew I always turn it to the right, so I was able to do that. It's talking and doing things at the same time. Sometimes your brain doesn't work all the ways it should. All right, so there's a wreath. Easy peasy, simple, one stamp, one color of ink, and you've got a beautiful design. Now, to take this kind of to the next level, then that's where you could start adding in other stamps and filling out this wreath. So that's kind of what I'm going to show you now, is how you can just take another stamp by adding another design and another color, how that will add to the design and just create something different. So we're going to do the same one click, and you'll see how this one will just kind of overlap as well and continue to fill in that pattern that you're creating. And the beauty with this is you can rotate these images and angle them at different angles to create so many varieties of patterns and designs. I mean, really, it's so unlimited, just adding those variations to the design by moving where the stamp's positioned to then changing what colors you're using. It's just kind of, really, the options are limitless. So there is 2 stamps, 2 slightly different colors, just to add a little more interest. And then you can just keep going and adding another layer of color. So for this one, I'm gonna use the olive green and stamp this one. So you can see how that continues to build as you create your pattern. Okay, so there is that 3rd layer. And I think I will go back and I'm going to go ahead and add in this 4th layer, and I'm just going to use this small stamp here kind of in that little bit of an opening that's there. Close that up, and I'm going to add in one more color of green just to kind of show how things can continue to layer as you add more colors. So that's English Ivy. So there's a look at that finished pattern, and I feel like you could easily finish this off by adding just a stamped sentiment there in the center. You could add a die cut sentiment. You could add some gems or rhinestones, you know, to the wreath. You could also add maybe some little small die cut flowers to the wreath if you wanted something with a little dimension. So many possibilities for using this to create your card. So now once you get your paper down, and you're going to select your stamps. For my pattern, I'm going to be working with the Nature Butterflies and Hello You stamp sets. And so I'm going to start off with, I've selected one of the butterfly images, and I'm also going to be using one of the flowers and then one of the leaves to create this repeat pattern, as well as this little splatter pattern. So I'm just going to kind of keep all the stamps that I want to work with here close by. And when you're trying to decide how big to make your wreath, again, like I said, it's got these little markings on here that's going to help you keep it within your paper size. So I kind of like to put my stamps onto my paper and kind of figure out kind of the spacing from the edge of the paper inward, and then I can just push it down and it'll pick it up, and then that's where that image will be then stamped onto my paper as I do the turning. And then of course, you know, you can play around with the angle of the stamp, you know, if you wanted to turn in or out, and just how, you know, you want to place it there, but you kind of really can't go wrong at all, as you'll see. So we're just going to start off with this first image and kind of show you how it works. Now the inks I'm going to be working with here are archival inks, and I've got several different colors here. I've got violet, leaf green, shadow gray, and fossilized amber. You can use any kind of inks that you like, of course. These just happen to be what I have. So you just apply the ink to the stamp. Then you're going to just close the lid, gently press down to transfer the image and the ink onto the paper, lift up, and there you have it. And then what I find is select which way you want to rotate this, and then just kind of stick with that, so it just helps you keep from getting confused. I tend to like to just pull it towards me, being right-handed, maybe that's part of the why. And then I'm just going to rotate it once, and then just clicks into place for the next stop position. You're going to apply more ink and then stamp the image, and you just keep repeating that until you create the wreath. So it really couldn't be any easier. And if you wanted to stamp these butterflies in different colors for each one, you could do that. You know, there's already, you can see there are possibilities with what you can do with this. So, and then depending on, you know, how large your images are and how small they are, that will determine how many times you can repeat the image. I personally would recommend doing like a practice run of what you think you want to do before you settle in, and maybe practice on a piece of like printer paper, so that you're not wasting your good paper while you're practicing and learning how to do the patterns. But again, I really feel like you cannot go wrong once you start creating with these. So the next one I'm going to do is the flower, and I'm just going to place that kind of here with, you know, so it's just, that's maybe kind of layering over a little bit of its antenna, but I don't think that's really a big deal. And then we're going to close that, and then for that I'm going to use this fossilized amber. So we're just going to repeat what we just did, but now with this second image, As you can see, just kind of filling in that space around the wreath. And of course, you know, you could pick any color you like to create that. Oh, forgot to do my spin. And you just keep turning and inking and continuing to create your pattern. All right, so there is the second step of this pattern. As you can see, it just continues to fill in and create your own custom design. So now we've got, I'm going to use this little leaf. So I think I'm going to put the leaf here. And now I'm going to stamp that one with the leaf green. And just repeat that process as before. And there we have it. So as you can see, that wreath pattern has really come to life with 3 stamps and those 3 different colors of inks. Now, the last thing I want to do, and it's just more of a preference of style, is I want to add this little bit of like a splatter stamp in here. You could obviously skip this part if you really kind of prefer more of a neat and clean design. But I'm just gonna, I thought this would just add a little touch of my style to this design. So I'm gonna do the same thing here now with this shadow gray. Okay, and there is our finished pattern. So as you can see, super simple and easy. And then to finish this off into a card, you could just stamp a sentiment here in the center. You could add a die cut sentiment. I personally was kind of inspired to create this thinking of Mother's Day that's coming up, and my mom's favorite color is purple. So that was part of the inspiration for me with this card design and the colors I chose. Okay, so now we're going to move on to another way you can use this tool, and that is to create repeat patterns. So you can create your own custom background patterned paper. So to get started, I just have a piece of standard A2 sized white cardstock here in my Stamp and Spin tool. So I'm going to be working with just one of the butterfly images from the Nature Butterflies stamp set. And when you place it to start creating your pattern, I like to place that first image pretty close to the center of the Stamp and Spin. So, you know, right close to that little screw that's there. And then you can just, you know, place the stamp kind of however you want to angle it. I kind of like to angle it outward like that. And, you know, whatever angle you want, I'll place it there. And then I'm going to be working with archival ink here. This is just Pebble Beach. And so to start with, this is going to seem kind of similar to what we've already done. So you're just going to apply the ink, stamp it. But instead of doing just one click, we're going to do 2. So when you rotate it, clicks once, and then it will click twice. So you're basically rotating it 90 degrees this time. And stamping your image twice. And then you just keep repeating that process until you get all the way around your circle here. So as you can see, it's just going to get you 4 times around. Now, this is where the fun begins. So you're going to take that same stamp. If you need to clean it off or feel the need to clean it off, go right ahead and do so. And then you're going to position it onto your paper where you want that next image to be. So you kind of get to start filling in the openings in your pattern here. So I'm going to just kind of stick it into that little section right there. Close the lid, pick up my stamp, and then stamp it again. We're going to click it twice and just repeat the stamping. And there we have the second time around. So I'm gonna clean my stamp off here just so I don't accidentally drop it or get it so I don't actually accidentally drop it or get any ink where I don't want it. And this is just, I'm cleaning, since I'm using archival ink, I'm using the archival ink cleaner, which is what it's made to work with this particular ink, and it can be used on these types of stamps. And so yeah, so you're just gonna keep that going with that pattern. So you can rotate that butterfly any direction you like, place it in there. And you're basically just looking to see where is an opening that this will fit. And you just place it in there, and then you rotate it around, clicking it twice every time. Again, just a reminder to rotate it in the same direction every time. Now, this tool, as you can see, comes with a little like mask that you can use. So if you don't want to get the ink onto your sticky grid mat, you can place this little mask there and then just stamp, and it will just get onto the paper and then onto the mask. And so you don't have to worry about getting your paper or getting your sticky grid dirty. And then we're going to rotate it again and stamp it again. And then we're going to repeat using that mask again on this side here. And as you can see, that design just continues to fill in as you continue to create the pattern. And then you just continue to repeat until you're done. So again, you know, as you are doing this and you rotate it around, this one is going to kind of hang off there again, so you can use that mask. It's not going to damage anything to get ink onto that sticky grid mat, but I mean, it just kind of looks prettier without it being all inked up, right? And just remember to wipe that ink off on, you know, not on your paper here, so you don't accidentally smudge it onto your pattern paper that you're creating. Little mask again. And then as you can see, you just keep going until that paper is filled in completely. to use the mask on that one there. Got kind of lucky it didn't transfer over. See, like that one, you're just barely going to get a tiny bit of the wing on there. So you could also do this on square paper. You could do on any size paper that you like. But just wanted to show you that you can work with any size of paper to create patterns. This is something that I absolutely love doing, and when I've done it before, it was really just a matter of me having to eyeball where to place the image and hoping that I would be able to get that pattern filled in. This really just takes all the guesswork out of it and makes it so easy, and I feel it makes it to where anyone can create really beautiful custom pattern papers with their stamps. So fill that one in there. And as you can see, I'm very bad about remembering to put my little mask down here. Oop, forgot to add some more ink. There we are. And so as you can see, it just continues to fill in that pattern. And you just keep stamping until you're filled in. So now that we're getting towards this edge, that image is really not probably going to fit on these top, you know, this side or this side now. So I'm just going to stamp it here. And then I'm going to rotate it. Twice would get it here. And then 4 times we'll get it over to fill in on that side of the paper. Move my little mask. And as you can see, we're almost finished. So I think just one more little stamp here. And that one's going to get a little trickier because it's kind of on the corner. So, you know, if that happens and you're like, just grab, you know, a little scrap of paper even and put that on there. And then, you know, you can do your stamping that way. There we are. And then remember, we're going to click that 4 times. So that's twice, 3 and 4. Get the ink on there again. And then stamp that. So here's a look at that completed pattern background. Personally, I mean, this is just, I'm in love with this. And so to use this, you just use it like you would any pattern paper even. You know, add some die cuts or even just a sentiment, or, you know, you could ink the edges a little bit if you wanted, depending on what kind of paper and ink you used. You know, you could add some ink splatters or watercoloring. You know, the options are unlimited, really limited only by your ideas. So, you know, play with it, give it a try, and just I cannot recommend enough to just sit down and play with it and don't let it intimidate you. Just play with it, because you really cannot go wrong with creating the patterns and designs. This tool just really makes it so easy to create your own designs and patterns. So for this final technique that I'm going to share, it's also creating a repeat pattern, but this time, instead of just one stamp, I'm going to show you how you can use multiple stamps to create a repeat pattern. I've just got a A2 size piece of paper in my Stamp and Spin. Once again, I'm going to be working with the Garden Botanicals and the Nature Butterflies stamp sets. And I've just selected some of the smaller butterflies and some of the botanicals to create my pattern. Now, to get started, what I'm going to do is kind of how I did the last time. I'm going to take one of the small stamps. This is one of the small butterflies. I'm going to place it towards the center of my Stamp and Spin, not all the way, you're not covering the center, but right close to it there. And then just press that down. The colors of ink I'm going to be working with here are Beach Cruiser, Seafarer, Sky Blue, and Peat Moss. And first color here I'm going to use is Seafarer. And we're just going to ink that stamp up and stamp. And then do our spin. So we're going to do like we did before. We're going to do 2 clicks on the wheel, so that we're creating a little space in between the images. So there is our first part of this pattern. We're gonna remove that stamp, clean it off, because I would like to use this stamp again. I'll show you kind of how that works. So the next thing we're going to do is take one of the little greenery pieces and then just kind of start filling in these openings like we did before. So I'm just going to fit that down in there. And I'm going to use Peat Moss and stamp that into our pattern here. Again, clicking it twice each time. And then always pulling that wheel in the same direction so you kind of don't get confused about which image to stamp and where. There we go. Throw it to the side, and now we can take, you could take another butterfly, I could take another greenery piece. It's really, it kind of just depends on how you want to do this. You know, you can kind of place the butterfly different directions, just kind of play around with it a little bit and see what you think looks good with filling it in. I really don't feel like you can go wrong with this sort of a pattern. So now for that butterfly, let's do this sky blue color. And then 2 clicks, and then just continue that process. All right, so now we're ready for maybe another greenery piece here. And kind of trying to figure out, or maybe I want to do another butterfly, and then we could add in some greenery. So something kind of like that maybe. Or we want to do something more like that. Like really, like you start thinking about, where you could put these. That just gives you a little idea of how you could do these to kind of fill in these leftover sections of the design. So I think I'm going to maybe go do something like that. So leave those to the side. So we'll do that butterfly there. And we're going to use this Beach Cruiser now. And as you can see, that one's going to stamp off onto my grid here. So I'm just gonna get my little mask in there. But again, you don't have to use that. It's really just kind of a personal choice with things. Let's get some ink on there. There we are. Okay. Put this to the side. Clean that off. And now we're gonna fill in some of these little spots here. And I'd like to repeat that darker blue, I think. So I'm actually gonna futz around with this a little bit more, thinking about these space, like where I want to put things. So I think maybe something like that. And then we're going to go back to that peat moss color here. And click it twice. And to the next. I mean, really, my mind just goes to so many options when I'm doing this, like different techniques, different kinds of ways you could you know, use these stamps to create your own patterns, and mixing up colors, and it's just, the options to me are just unlimited. I know I keep saying that, but really, this is so much fun too. So, you know, when I'm going, so like that butterfly's already going that way, so I don't want to place him that way really. So I want to kind of make it a little more random, turning it that way. That one's going to stamp off the paper here, so I'll get my little mask in. Then I'm going back to that Seafarer. Now we're gonna start filling in some of this, that. And you could also go like that. I mean, really kind of do whatever you like here at this point. Just fill it in. Oh, and I forgot my mask. Oh well, we'll be all right. Okay. So now this one, I think this second click, it's not even going to be on the paper. So again, we're going to go back to that clicking 4 times. So that one's just going to stamp in this corner opposite here. So we'll move our little mask over there. And then at this point, you can kind of go back to some of the images you've already used. Maybe you want to put put that one there now. We'll do that. You really just kind of keep going until you have your pattern filled in. Don't think. Nope. And obviously, if it's not going to stamp onto your paper, just do the clicks and skip to the next section. There we are. And maybe you want to repeat, maybe we need to repeat this butterfly here again. I'm kind of thinking so. So should we, I think I'm gonna go with what I had there. if you're not sure, like, is this gonna fit? Can I fit all these things in here? Like, is there room for something? You can always just kind of lay your stamps onto your paper and just see, you know, is that gonna fit or not? Do that way, and then we could, you know, fill that in, like something like that. And I'm going to go back to the beach cruiser. And then we'll do the 4 clicks. Right. And then over there. And then we can back in. Okay, that's where I'm gonna go with that. You know, and then even like if you really want to get brave, you could start, you know, putting 2 stamps on there at the same time if you wanted. So do something like that. You know, especially if you're working with like the smaller ink pads, you know, it'd be really easy to, you know, just ink up 1 stamp and ink up the other. Put our mask on there. There we are. I don't think you might get a little, you could get a little bit of that stem to fill in that spot there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stamp that one. Because I do want to fill in as much of this as I can, even if it's just a little teeny bit. Gotta rotate though. There we are. One more. Do our little greenery here on this side. There we are. So you can see, you know, there's a few more little spots here that you could go in and, you know, fill those in if you like. It's really kind of up to you at this point. You know, where to stop. To me, this looks pretty filled in and I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm gonna call that a finished background. And then just like with any pattern paper, you know, you can use this for a background for your card and just add a simple sentiment or a die cut sentiment, embellish it with some other die cuts. There's so many possibilities of what to do with these backgrounds. Here's a look at the finished cards. As you can see, I added a combination of stamped sentiments and die cuts to each card to add a little more interest and dimension. If you'd like a closer look at the finishing details on these cards, visit my blog using the link in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can join me on a more regular basis. Hit the like if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to join me on my other social media platforms, you can find the links to those in the description box below. Also, feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions or if there's something you'd love to share with me and our community. I'll see you in the comments below and in the next video. Until next time, stay crafty, my friend.